And as usual, I'd like for those of your first timers to know that we do have a lot of World War II vets around. Would you raise your hands, please? Yeah. There's an organization called Operation Homefront who I called and they gave me a bunch of these things for you guys. Stickers for the cars. I see some of them some outside, you already have some. However, I'd like you all to have one. So, Charlie, would you help me go down this way? I'll go down this way. World War II vet, raise your hand, I'll give you a sticker. I'm going to run out. I'm going to get more. Okay.
Oh, I know him.
World War II. Congratulations, you win. There you go, right?
This guy too.
Jerry? Okay. The usual announcement, if you're not getting an email or a postcard and want one, sign up in the rear. We have little sign-up sheets. Please let us know if you'll get one for the next meeting. As you know, we didn't have any dinner this month. We won't have one next month. We'll restart the dinners in September. You'll have notice of whom to contact and by when we send out the announcements. At this time, I usually ask Richard Burton, one of our officers, to talk about the Vietnam Roundtable. He's in charge of that. He runs that. And unfortunately, he had a little medical issue. He had a minor stroke yesterday. He'll be okay. He's in the hospital under observation. He'll be sent home probably tomorrow, probably back on his feet, no time flat. But he can't, what his agenda is this month, so I will. It's probably a good one for those of you who like to go to the Vietnam Roundtable.
What it is.
What's that?
Captain will do it. I don't know the name of the soldier, but they have a veteran paratrooper from the 173rd Airborne Brigade.
Right.
And then I believe he served a second term with the 101st Airborne.
Yeah. 173rd Operations Officer of the 101st Aviation Battalion, 101st Airborne Division, went to Vietnam in 1965 to 66, and then again in 68, 7 and 8, went back to I Corps, rotating home in December. He's got a lot of credits, and he'd be very worth listening to. So. Next Thursday night, correct. Next Thursday night at the Michael Novosel Chapter 542, 8000 Derry, Pittsburgh. Okay. All right. So anyway, with respect to Richard Burton, I hope your prayers and best wishes go to him and his ever-suffering wife, by the way. And is Ricky Hollis in the house? Ricky Hollis? Okay, he was going to be here talking about the Civil War Roundtable, but he's not. Charlie would like to tell you a little bit about our upcoming speakers, and then later on he'll tell you about our current speaker. Not right now.
Okay, save you for later. What does harem mean? Did he have a harem here? Getting you. Good evening. We have Harold coming up as a speaker. Next month, we have Steve Osan, a triple vet. World War II. Is Steve here tonight? Ooh, I saw you earlier. Thank you, Steve. triple vet. Let's see if I remember. We didn't do an interview yet. Utah State, second year, combat engineer, building bridges across the rivers into Germany, and then to Korea. I think fixed wing and rotorcraft in Korea, and then command of the 2500 battalion in Vietnam. So that's going to be a very interesting term. Thank you. We look forward to that. The following month is September, and we have 1.5 speakers. Half is here. Ed Gardner is a guard at Nuremberg, and he hasn't quite made up his mind if he wants to get on the stage yet or not, but he's going to share in that. And the other one is Arch State Mays, and he was there at the guard in Nuremberg as well. So between both of these guys, we should get a pretty good picture because they've all been there. They've been to the cells. They interacted with Goebbels and all those ugly people. So that should be a very interesting month. And in October, we have Hilda Mantelmacher, who was a Auschwitz survivor. And she'll be here to share her stories with us about Auschwitz. And I'll just cut it off. Oh, we did take photos of the veterans last month. 18 or 20 of you guys are going to be in a magazine. Next month, we'll get magazines. It's a B magazine, the name of it, and we'll have copies for you. And we also sent a copy of Floyd Deming at the altar of the stage with Dylan Kreiner, the young fellow. And that's going to be published in the 50-plus senior news next month. So we look for that. That's it.
If you only knew how much work Charlie does to make all this happen, it's just amazing. So, hats off to you, Charlie. Thank you. Okay, just a few minutes, Harold. Yeah, a little about the month of July, Ray, World War II, and I'm going to run through it year by year. But 1940. 1939 really kicked off, but by 1940 things were going on. The German U-boats were attacking merchant ships in the Atlantic on July 1st. On July 2nd, 1940, Hitler orders preparation of plans for the invasion of Britain, codenamed Operation Sea Lion. On the 3rd of July, tomorrow, 75 years ago, the British attack and destroy the French Navy. How about that? Fearing that it would fall into German hands. This caused just a little ill will between the neighbors of France and Great Britain, which was subsequently alleviated after the war, of course. But just a little side of it. On the 4th of July, Germany captured the island of Sark, the last of the Channel Islands between Britain and Europe. This really sets them up for coming over to Great Britain. And Hitler just wanted to beat the heck out of Great Britain. He recognized that they were a formidable foe. And on the 10th, the Battle of Britain began. This was the air campaign waged by the German Air Force, aka the Luftwaffe, against Great Britain and the Royal Air Force during the summer and autumn of 1940. This was just a huge battle. And strangely enough, the Germans didn't have a lot of planes, they had a lot of pilots. And they started going after the Luftwaffe, and then they changed their tactic and started going they went after RAF and their bases, and then changed their tactic to go after British manufacturing plants and other strategic places. Had they kept going against the airfields, they might have pulled it off, but they didn't. They changed their tactic, and that's what allowed the RAF to maintain air supremacy and beat the Germans back. That would be a blunder. On the 16th, Adolf Hitler submits to his military the directive for the invasion of the United Kingdom, aka Operation Sea Lion. That's when it began. Well, that was the directive anyway. On the 26th of July, 1940, the United States of America activates the General Headquarters, called GHQ, the United States Army, which is designed to facilitate mobilization by supervising the organization and training of the Army Field Forces within the continental United States, codenamed Zone of the Interior. So this will tell you that in 1940, while things are really going on over there, we weren't exactly ready to be there. We were late comers in this event. All right, jump forward to July 31, 1941. Hitler gives instructions to Goering to prepare for the final solution. We've heard a lot about that, and we'll hear more about it in the next couple of months. But that was the eradication of the Jews and the undesirables to him in Europe. Jumping to 1942. Now we go to the Pacific. Guadalcanal, remember that, was firmly in the hands of the Japanese. They were making their move. And back to Europe on July 4th, 1942, the first air missions by the American Army Air Force happened in Europe. So it took us until July 1942 to get our airplanes going in that direction. And of course the RAF was very heavily involved with the incendiary attack on Hamburg. And I don't know if Flight Lieutenant Boyd over here was involved with that, but not yet? Okay, he was still training Americans how to fly. Okay. Jump to 1943, July 10th, Operation Husky, the Allied landing in Sicily. On the 22nd, the U.S. forces under General Patton captured Palermo, Sicily. On the 24th, Hamburg, Germany, heavily bombed in Operation Gomorrah, which at the time was the heaviest air assault in the history of aviation. 1944, of course you remember D-Day in June, that was last month. But by July 9th, the Allies, mostly the British, captured Caen, which is a big city in Normandy. Very important thing to do. July 21st, go back to the Pacific. The U.S. landed on Guam. So we're going in both directions, big time. And on July 25th, Operation Cobra. That was the Allied breakout from Normandy begins, and off we went across Europe. Then we get to July 45, the Potsdam Conference, which was when Germany was officially divided into 4 zones of occupation. That's a little bit from July. Now, back to the topic at hand. We have a very special speaker tonight, sitting over here, and Charlie Lloyd, who's been doing a great job for us of finding these guys. Where'd you go, Charlie? Yo, Charlie. He's going to introduce Harold for us, isn't he? And I'll tell you this, then I'll go ahead. You're going to hear from Harold, and we'll have a question and answer. And I'll remind you to, on the way out, we don't charge anything, but we do collect. The helmet committee will be there in full force, accepting whatever little contribution you'd like to make to help us pay rent and expenses. But thank you very much. So visit the helmet committee as you exit. And like so many of you have done, please bring a friend, bring a guest next month. Most of them seem to like it and keep coming back. I'm very impressed with the amount of people here tonight, and thank you all for coming. So Charlie, if you'll please introduce Harold Billow to the folks.
Thank you very much. The reason I left is because Harold just reminded me I didn't put a table up for him to put his stuff out. So I had to sneak out when Kirk wasn't looking to get a table. But once we get the table up and we get your paraphernalia on there, then people afterwards can come down and meet Harold and look at all the stuff he has. You bring a flag? Yeah. Good. Okay, we can do that. Before I introduce Harold, I'd like to introduce somebody else. I went to Mount Joy to pick Harold up the second time I did that. I did it the first time maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I think I might have shared it with you at one of the meetings. I just joined the group, and Mr. Jackson, our founder, said, we have a speaker in Mount Joy, who's going to pick him up? And all the heads turned and looked at me, and Bill says, thank you, Charlie. I ended up going to Mount Joy, which I appreciated, because when I got there, it was a farmhouse. The grass was cut like with a razor, or laser. It was sharp, and I hear this thump, thump, thump. And he comes out in his uniform he wore 70-some years ago. And we've been friends ever since. So I thank you for that, Bill. On the way back, I stopped and picked up my wife's uncle, who's with us tonight. His name is Charles Philip Selker, more commonly known as Chip. World War II Navy. And the whole way up here, he's calling Harold, who's 92, kid. What do you got for that? I called Chip on Tuesday and wished him happy birthday. May I tell them? 102 years old. Now, all you World War II vets out there, kids. Thank you, Chef, for coming. Harold, I go back to where you started, but I'm just going to make it brief. You entered the war in the Observation Artillery Battalion, Battle of the Bulge, conquered Piper Game with their Panzer units, surrounded you, surprised you, you weren't prepared for that, and they lined you up in the field, and the rest is history. I'll let Harold fill in the details. Ladies and gentlemen, my hero, Harold Billow. Where'd you get all these ladies falling around all the time? Oh, sounds likely. Come all the way up here to see you.
Still there. That's how damn good looking I was.
If I had this on my checklist,
Right.
going through this would be great for people to see everything. And Harold's quick, he puts everything in poly, so it doesn't get cut, ripped, and everything else. So he's on top of that. More girls. It's a basketball team.
Yeah.
What did I do wrong, sir? Okay, buddy, she's all yours. You ready?
Yeah. I can stay there. I'm moving on.
Okay.
Okay, folks, good to see everybody tonight here. Saw some of it a few years ago, but I got some of my real good friends here tonight. People I worked with for about 30-some years. They all come to see me. Of course, I get to see them once a month anyways at Gus's restaurant. We have a amp retiring party at Gus's restaurant. Front row here, there's 4 of them. Over there's 1. Back there's 1. I'm loaded with them. Okay. As you know, my name's Harold Billow. I was drafted in the Army. And you know, most of you got that letter in the mail, something went like, your friends and neighbors have suggested you for the Armed Forces of the United States, and I ain't talked to my damn neighbors since. Well, when I was drafted, I was sent to New Cumberland Army Depot. There I got outfitted, everything. And then the first place I was shipped to was Camp Gruber, Oklahoma. We had our basic training there, and after we had our basic training, we were shipped down to Camp Polk, Louisiana, down to the swamps and snakes and tree stumps all over. After we had training down there, then we were shipped back up to Fort Sill, Oklahoma. There we done some more training. After our training at Fort Sill, Then we got orders to ship overseas. We went to Camp Shanks, New York. Got on board ship. The next morning, I went up on top deck to see what it was like. And all you could see in all directions was ships. We were in a big convoy heading across. We got over towards Cardiff, Wales, and in the back of our convoy there was a big explosion. One of the Germans got one of our ships. But as you know, the convoys kept going. I got into Cardiff, Wales, and there we were for a while. Then we got our orders to head to the front. What I was in was the 285th Field Artillery Observation Battalion. All we did was observe enemy gunfire. I was a surveyor. We surveyed in flash and sound observation posts. And what they did, they would observe all the enemy guns firing, and they could plot the coordinates, send the coordinates back to our gun batteries, and they return the fire. We went up over Omaha Beach long after D-Day. We had quite a ways to go till we got up to the front lines to set up our operations. We set up our observation post, and then we were almost always able to find some building that we could get back and stay out of the weather until we get our next assignment. Like I said, all we were an observation battalion. Then comes December the 16th, we got our orders to leave to another area, which was St. Vith. We never got there. On the route we were taking was at Malmedy, Belgium. And at Malmedy there was 5 roads came together. But before our convoy got there, the 281st Engineer Battalion got word that the Germans were making their breakthrough. And Colonel Pegram, the head of the 281st, he told our officer that was leading our convoy that he wouldn't advise to take that route that we were going on. And because he said, another route you should take, well, Lieutenant Larry, he says, I have my orders, this is the route we're going to take, and that's the way we went. After we got going through the crossroads, well, before we got to the crossroads, back a ways, the 281st had roadblocks set up. On both sides of the road, there was huge trees, and the engineers had all those trees loaded with TNT in case the Germans were to come down that way. They never got through. They'd have blasted them trees all over the roadway. So as our convoy was going through the crossroads at Malmedy, up coming from our left was this German Panzer Division, SS guys. And as you all know, most of you know, that was one of the worst, rottenest outfits that Hitler had. And they were out, they could care less who got in their way. They mowed them down, and after they got through a town where they captured, they had the whole thing practically burnt down. Well, after a while, what they did, this German column coming up was shooting our vehicles up that got through the crossroads, blowing them up, and naturally our convoy stopped. They had no place to go anymore. Then, after they started rounding us up, they put that's in a field right alongside the road. There's approximately 150 of us. There were some other guys that was going through the crossroads from other outfits. They grabbed them too and put it in the building. But there was approximately 150 of us. Then, out of this German column, a German officer pulled up in a command car, and he stood up and shot one guy on the right side of me. Then he shot another guy on the left side of me. Then he hollered something to this tank that was sitting out in front of us and put 2 machine guns on top of the tank. What he hollered, I don't know what it was, but then they opened fire. All us guys in this field, they opened fire, point blank. We were only about from here out through that door away from the tank. And when he hollered something, they opened up both machine guns back and forth in the field, trying to kill everybody. Because they were told they didn't have time to take prisoners. After the machine guns stopped firing, then what they did, they walked through the field, and naturally, a lot of guys were laying there moaning and groaning. The guys who walked through, point blank, would shoot them through the head to finish them off. They'd kick them, roll them over, and if they saw any sign, they'd point blank shoot them through the head. There was a medic close to me fixing a guy up. German was standing alongside of him. After he had him bandaged up, he shot both of them through the head to finish them off. This kept up for quite a while. And as this was all going on, this German column was still coming up from our left and making a left turn to go down Route N32. And those guys in the vehicle would open up and fire into the field where all these guys were already shot and laying, dying. The one tank that was sitting out in front of us, they tried to maneuver his tank. He wanted to get the barrel down so he could shoot into the field. But for some reason, he wasn't able to get it down. And then, after that, tanks coming up in that column, they tried to get the guns turned in. They wanted to shoot in the field and blow the guys to bits, but it never happened. Before this happened, we had lunch along the road. This was around 1 o'clock. After we had lunch, we got loaded up, and there was 3 guys from around Ephrata or Stevens. They were practically neighbors to each other before they went into service. And a lot of people ask me, how comes there were so many people in that outfit that was from Lancaster County? They were from Elizabethtown, Mountjoy, Lancasville, Salunga, E-Town, and all around. And like I said, some of those 3 guys knew each other, lived neighbors to each other all around Stevens. And when we got boarded up, this one guy, Schwartz, he said to Ernie Bechtel, he says, Ernie, he says, something terrible is going to happen today. Ernie said, what the dickens are you talking about? He said, don't talk to Saddam. He said, I'm telling you, something terrible is going to happen today. Well, we boarded up, and I got ahead of myself there, but we boarded up and started off, and that's when we came to the crossroads where the Germans captured and put us in the field. When that happened, naturally everybody went down. I went down, face down, played dead for the rest of the day. I thought, I hope I survive this, that I can get back and tell people what happened. Well, there was approximately 25 that survived that massacre, was able to get back to the 281st, where they had a field hospital set up. And the guy from Marietta, when I'm telling this, I can just see it as if it's happening right now. Jim Matera, he says, come on guys, let's get out of here. So all those that were able to run took off and ran back down towards the way we were coming from. But at this crossroad, there was a house and a cafe. Some of us ran into this house. I did too. But as soon as I got inside that door, I said to myself, well, them guys on that tank sure saw us go in there. They're going to come down and get us. I turned around, went right back out across the road to the hedge road, and ran down along the hedge road to try to keep out of the fire in case they would fire at us from the tank, which they did. I looked up once and I saw the dirt kicking up close to me as I was close to come to getting hit. But what the Germans did then, they poured gasoline around this house, set it on fire, and as everybody came out, they shot them. My buddy from Lidditz, he was up ahead of the crossroad, off the road in the bushes in the field there. He was hiding, and a German guest told me this several times after we got home. Now this German went by with the dog. The dog stopped and started to sniff at him, and the German pulled the dog away. If he'd have moved that day, he'd still be over there. So after the guys that survived that got back to this first aid station, we were all interviewed by news people. And all the guys told about the same story as what I did. Matera, as I was running down the road, I looked to my left and I could see a guy close by running with his chin looked like it was hanging down. He was shot through the mouth. He did manage, I was told, that he got back to the States and survived it. There's all of them long gone. There's two of us now that are left out of that massacre. A guy from Philadelphia, Ted Paluch, and me. After I left the first aid station, it was at night, naturally. The next day, I was on a train with a bunch of all wounded guys. And we all, I forgot to tell you, while I was laying there in the field, I got hit in the foot. It really stung because it was cold, and I said, well, don't look. I stayed there, and when I got to the first aid station, they asked me, the guys, if I was hit. I said, yeah, I think in the foot. I took my goulash off, and I heard something rattle, and I turned it up, and a little metal slug fell out. It only went through my goulash and not my shoe sole. And like a dummy, I get the guy that interviewed me that day, his name was Howard Boyle from the Lancashire paper, or Philadelphia paper, I think it was. And I gave it to him. I should have kept it for a souvenir, but it's too late now. After we were going on this train, all the guys had a tag on it. It had on UK. I could hear that guy say, what's the UK stand for? He said, that's the United Kingdom. We're going back to England. Yeah. After going through that, we were all ready to get back. When I got back there, they had me put in a hospital for a week or so, checking me out and everything. Then they put me in the 8th Air Force at Warrington, England, right outside of the city of Manchester. And all we did, when we'd go out to the hangars in the morning, they'd take us out of the truck. The war was over then. Crews would get up on them planes, tear them to pieces, break, bust, damage everything on them planes so nobody could use the parts. We had mountains of plane parts as big as this whole room out in the field of work. We probably had yours, Frank. Yeah, that's all I did while I was in the 8th Air Force. Then the sergeant in charge of us at the hangar, he was getting tired of us waiting because, you know, at that time you had to wait till you got so many points, the more points you had, the quicker you were sent home. The sergeant said, you guys want to take off and go into town, go back to the barracks and go into town the rest of the day, go ahead. So a lot of us did. And way across the field, there was a big hole in the fence somebody had cut. And that's where we went through to go into town. We went back into the barracks, change clothes, get cleaned up, and go into the city of Manchester for the rest of the night. I've got a couple. Miles Robinson. He lived just about a quarter of a mile from me on the same street I did before I went into the service. And at Lammersdorf one day, we got a chance to go in this factory to see a movie. And after the movie was over, I was on the way out, and this guy grabbed me by the arm and kind of spun me around and said, hey, aren't you from Mount Joy? I looked at him and said, Miles Robinson. He was in a tank outfit. He had his tank parked right outside the factory. He came in to see the movie too. But people asked me already, did you talk to him much? No, that's all we said. He went out and got his tank. That was the last I saw of him until we got home. After we got home, discharged, I got to see him quite often. And my buddy from Liddis, Sketch Mary, over there, he got a 10-day pass, and he told Captain Scarborough, he says, or Captain Scarborough said, where are you going? He said, I'm telling you, I'm going into England to see Billow. And he did. He got there. He got hitchhiked on trucks and I don't know what all, trains. And while I was there in Burtonwood, I was in town in Manchester this one night, and when I got back to the barracks, got in the barracks, somebody was in my bed. And it was Sketch. And after Sketch, well, he was late getting back. He had more than 10 days. When he got back, Captain Scarborough says to him, Sketch, he said, you know you're late getting back. He said, I know I am, but he said, I told you I was going into England to see Billow. Scarborough said, you want another pass? He said, yeah, I'll take it. Then one time while I was there at Lammersdorf, the guy was complaining about not having any fresh meat. So Sketch said, well, you guys go out, there's all kinds of livestock running around. Go out and get some bring in. So I don't know what they went out and got anymore, but they brought it in. And in this factory there was an elevator shaft. It pulled the old steer animal up. Sketch knew how to butcher. He skinned and everything down the elevator shaft. We had good fresh meat for a couple weeks. And then, the ship that I went over on was the Malmedy Moon. And when I came home in the New York harbor, I saw this big old gray ship sitting there, and I saw the name, Malmedy Moon, but it didn't look the same as when I went over. It was all full of holes. It got holes that got hit. And then one time we were there around Lammersdorf, we got a chance to go in someplace to get clean clothes and take a shower. The engineers had this big tent up, and we went in one end, took off all their clothes, threw them down, took a shower, shaved, went through, out the other end, we got clean clothes again. That didn't last long because of the weather condition that we had. 4 times a year, I used to put up in my front lawn 87 flags, one for each guy that was killed in that massacre that day, December the 17th, 1944. I cut it back to just 2. I put them up now, Memorial Day and Veterans Day. Because when I put them 87 up, the way I put them up, it takes me about 3 hours. In the last 2 years, crawling around with my hands and knees was a job. But I right now, for 4th of July, I just have 25 up. But those 2 other holidays, I put 87 up. One represents each guy that was killed at the Malmedy Massacre. And then while I was there, at Burtonwood, I used to go in the city of Manchester almost every night. And after a while, one night comes this nice girl down like half over here sitting all by ladies. And I met this girl, I started dating her, go up to her place every night, and I always take the last train from her place. Her town is called Oldham. I go back from Oldham to Manchester, and then from Manchester to Warrington. I always take the last train from her place back to the barracks. Finally, after all that time dating her, we decided we were going to get married. So December 17th, 1945, was that date, year that the Germans captured us, I got married. After the wedding was over, my wife's mother said, "Harold, you know what?" He said, "In 1944, on December 17th, you were captured by the Germans. Now, December 17th, 1945, you were captured by the Lions." I lost her. She was a very good woman. I lost her in 08. And I go back to see her every now and then back in the Gap. We get to talk to each other, and she always enjoyed me coming back to visit her. But then, guy sitting over here, he was one of the Nuremberg prison guards, right? And I brought along a picture. He also has a picture of the cells where all these German officers were and all our guys guarding. I have, the one I got shows my daughter-in-law's father at the one door guard in prison. His name was Bill Cox. And let's see here. Yeah, that's a picture of the German. I'll show you. And here is a field where we all lay, where all that massacre took place in the field. But after that took place, the next day it snowed, and all those bodies were covered up they didn't get up to locate them for about 2 months afterwards. And then the way they found them, they went in the field, used mine detectors, swept back and forth over them. They picked up the metal on them, their helmets and that, and they swept the snow off them, put a tag on them, picked them up, threw them up on a big 6x6 truck, and they took them back to some building that was heated, and they declosed them. And I have a book that John Bowserman wrote just about B Battery, the 285th, where after they declothed him, and he has in there how each one was killed with how many shots, with small arms, shrapnel, or whatever. That is a very good book by Gunpowder, and that's nothing but the 285th. He describes everything about from the time we were formed until this all happened. Yeah, that's a picture. Everybody can come up and you can see it. There's a picture showing them sweeping the snow off of them, getting them ready to declothe them and that. Then at Malmedy, the people of Malmedy, December the 17th, I forget what year it was, they put up a museum where this took place, and every year, December the 17th, they have a memorial service. That is a picture of what they do every Memorial Day. And that, where this took place at Malmedy, the Malmedy people put up a stone wall. And on this stone wall, they have 87 names on that wall of all the guys who were killed in that field that day. I have a big one here. Goodbye, you can see it. 87 names on there, all the guys that were killed. I used to correspond with a lady that lived there, and they take care of that wall and around that area. They have a spick and span all the time, I was told. My outfit twice went over on a tour to visit the place where this all took place. I never went to go along because at that time I didn't have that green stuff together, and I all thought what I should have did was borrowed money and went, but it's too late now. If I go now, everything's built up, and the first trip these guys made back over, they said it wasn't built up then, but when they went the second time, there was no battle scars hardly at all in the place. Everything was built up new. Then every Memorial Day in Mount Joy, I'm always in the parade. And I always ride one of the old genuine Army Jeeps. This past Memorial Day, the guy had his 50 caliber machine gun mounted on it, and I'd gone down Main Street. I was right on back of that, hold on to that baby. And people all around say, shoot it, do it. I said to the guy that owns the Jeep and all that, I said, you know, we ought to get some blank shots and they've gone down and fired every now and then. Well, he said, you know how some people would be. Some people wouldn't appreciate it and others would. I got one more item here to tell you about. When veterans of the Battle of the Bulge had their meeting at Millersville, VFW, a guy gave me this article. And on this article, this guy wrote, he says, tell our survivors, Mary and Billow, that there was no massacre. I tell people, I said, boy, if that guy would go by me right now, I said, if that guy could buy me right now, I'd push that right through it. Yeah, can you imagine? Well, the same with the Holocaust. People say that never happened. You got survivors yet that are still living to tell us about that. But now, me, there's only me and the guy from Philadelphia that's still surviving that. Then, I had to bring this along. Also. Basketball team of girls. Hooters girls. I was over there one time. Oh, I was over Gettysburg Eisenhower Museum years ago. And on the way home, well, I had a uniform on, and I had my picture taken with all these uniforms, with 2 pilots. So I told some people, I said, hey, when I pass on, one of the other ones, I'm going to have that in my casket. Yeah, well, I think that's about it. Guys, people ever hear about this Severn Fairman? Yeah. I met him, I have a picture taken with him several times. I was back at the Reading Air Show with him. Paluch was sitting on the left side of me. Severn was sitting on the right side of me. We all were signing autographs on everything. But he's passed away now. He was a great guy. He was, everyone wanted to hear a story. He survived all the concentration camps. Him and his whole family. You heard him talk? Yeah. They survived in all the concentration camps. And after the war was over, they all met. And on his arm, he showed, he still has whatever, a number or something tattooed on him. But that is a great story. I told him over at Reading, I said, you know, Severn, I heard you twice already. And I said, if I hear that you're going to talk again sometime, I'm going to be there if I have to call. He wrote a book about his story. I never got it, but I heard him twice, and I know all about it. But he has a great story to tell. Yeah. Well, I think that's about what I tell everybody. If I wouldn't have played dead that day, I wouldn't be here. If I moved, I'd be still over there.
Wow. Now, for those of you who didn't understand or hear Harold, extra read all about it. It's well documented in this book. And on page 157 is a picture of a dashing Tech 5 Harold Billow. He was 6'3" then, I think. But no less attractive than he is now. So, do you have anything to say about this book, Harold?
That is a good book. Boy, that describes all the guys who survived it. They were all interviewed and they all tell about the same story. That is a very good book that Daniel Parker wrote. You can still get that in the bookstores.
It documents, as Harold said, the names of everybody and how they died, and you can see so many of them were shot in the head. It's pretty gruesome, but testimony to the fact that this was not a good day. And we're just delighted to have you here. We're going to have a question and answer period, but first, you get highly coveted, difficult to get at, round table mug.
Thank you. And the stars are put to good use to award the people like you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, anything else? Question and answers. Hands are flying up. Now we're going to start here and work our way around as we go. Pay attention, Harold. coming back, right here.
Harold, when you came back to the United States and you were married to your English wife, did you have any children, and what did you do, and what was your career after you came home?
After I came home, I got a job with AMP Incorporated, which is no longer, it was HICO, now it's connectivity. But I worked for 34 years with AMP. And when they started to downsize, they gave me a nice sum of money to get rid of me, and I took early retirement. But I had one son and one daughter. The daughter's gone a long way, and now I have a grandson, 2 grandsons, a granddaughter, and a great-granddaughter. But I worked for AMP for 34 years after I came home. And I didn't have, somebody just some time ago asked me how, when you come home, how do you manage to get back to normal again? I said, it didn't bother me a bit, like some guys, they must have a terrible time. To me, I just got back, took 2 weeks vacation before I got my job back. 34 years with, and one of my plant managers, he's sitting back there, Bert Henry.
All right, who's next? There was another one over here. He must have done a good job. Oh, here we go.
How long did it take you to get from the field till you were finally back to the American lines?
Just about a day. From the time we left that field after we were all shot, got back to the first aid station that night, it was after dark. And that's about just that short of time it took to get back to our lines again.
First off, Bert, it's an honor to be in your presence. I have a question. What became of the officer, the German officer, who ordered this massacre? Was he tried? What became of him?
Oh yeah, they had trials for them guys. Piper, I think they said Piper was the one that gave the orders to do all that massacre. And they hadn't any time to take any prisoners. I think they said it was Piper.
And what happened to him?
They had him locked up for a while, and I guess it isn't 2 years now that they found him someplace and they killed him and burned his house down. They told me.
Yep.
That's what I was
He was
told.
shot, killed. Somebody else? Back where? Where'd you go?
Yeah.
Okay, hang on.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, hang on, Harold. Young lady up here, as usual.
Okay, my question is, when you were playing dead and the officers or the German soldiers were coming around and shooting everyone in the head, did you get close to being found out at all, or did you make it through the whole time with anyone not noticing you?
At one time, I was hit on the back. I don't know if they kicked me or hit me with a rifle butt, but I knew they were doing that kind of stuff, and I just stayed put and never moved. And another thing, it was cold, and when you breathe, you know how this vapor comes out of your nose. You wouldn't believe how little I inhaled and exhaled. So there was no steam coming up from my mouth.
A question from Lebanon.
How long were you laying in the snow before you got out and ran away?
Well, this happened around 1 o'clock. And towards evening, when it was getting dark, is when the guy says, come on, let's get out of here. Wasn't too much, but some people asked me that question. I said, it seems like eternity. Laying there, and that, after all that, it seemed like days, weeks, but it was a few hours until we were able to get back. Yeah.
Were the Germans still there?
Oh yeah, they were still there, and as this German column was going by, they were still shooting in, and you could hear them laugh, you know. They just turned their guns in and shooting the field where we were all laughing. You know.
These are all SS?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, somebody said somebody, those German officers gave the orders to,
I have two questions. One, I forgot what you said. How many survivors were there?
about 25 who managed to get up out of that field that day.
And my second question, did the Army ever contact you to testify against that SS colonel that ordered the killing?
No, but some of the guys did get the chance to go over for the trials at Nuremberg. I didn't get to go over. But you know, a lot of those German officers, they got relieved. They let them go. That rotten politician from Washington, McCarthy, he let them all go. They told me. Yeah.
But there were more than 25 that ultimately survived, right? They were wounded, but couldn't get out of the field, but ultimately survived.
There was about 20, just about 25 just did survive. That's about all.
Total.
Yeah. But right now, there's only 2 of us. Ted Blue from Philadelphia and me.
Of the 25 that ran from the field, how many of them made it to the first aid station?
Well, I don't really know, but all those that was able to take off like that, they were all wounded, some pretty bad.